stating your name and the highest rank you achieved?
Azelia C. Campbell, and the highest rank was a Sergeant First Class E7.
And you're retired now?
Yes.
So just hopping right into it, where are you from?
So I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I started high school up there in 84, and then ended up moving to Harrisburg, Kentucky with my dad and my stepmom in December of 85.
And so while you were there, what was Harrisburg like?
Very small. Especially leaving Indianapolis, it's like a major city going to a very small town. So it was a big change.
And did you like Harrisburg or Indianapolis point?
I think Harrisburg was a better fit just so I could stay focused. Because in Indianapolis, I felt like I was beginning to lose a little focus.
So that focus, is that what brought you to the military? Or what was your motivation to serve?
So my motivation was, one, I wasn't extremely serious about school. And then two, I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money and I didn't have the money. So I was like, okay, I'll go to the military, get money so I can go to college.
And then what was interacting with your recruiter like?
He was awesome. Like, he wasn't very pushy. He was patient, and, he brought me in so they could test me to see, testing is important because then that dictates what job you get. And because I was in a hurry to go, I had to kind of take either a cook or transportation, and I knew I didn't want to be a cook. So I was like, I'll take transportation. When do I leave?
With that, what was your first day off of the bus at Basic like?
Oh, my goodness. When we got off at Basic, all I could hear was yelling and screaming. So I'm getting off the bus, and we're all looking around like, what is going on? And as soon as we get off the bus, they're yelling, get in formation, line up. And we're all like, formation? Like, what's a formation? I didn't take ROTC, so I wasn't familiar with any of these terms. So we're all panicking, but we're moving. They're telling us to move, we're moving without asking questions. Okay. And so we got lined up. And then, so when you first get there, you don't start Basic right off. You go into a reception and integration place to get you ready to go to Basic.
And so what'd you do while you were at reception?
So what they do, they issue your uniforms. Then they showed us how to march. They lined us up in formation. They was like, okay, this is what the expectation is. So when you leave us, and you get over there with the drill sergeants, this is how it's going to be. So we was like, they was prepping us, and we were ready.
And what were the demographics of that class that you were in like?
Oh, they had all different backgrounds. I mean, people from everywhere, like Chicago, Indiana. One girl was from the island, and she had never seen snow.
Was it all women in your class?
No, it was, yes, it was. So yeah, when we got there, we were all mixed in together, and then yes, they separate you. They put the males with the males and the females with the females.
And so you were at Basic for being a truck driver?
Yes.
And so what were the basics of that like?
So you go to Basic. Now, Basic considers every job. Everybody's mixed in there together. If you're a truck driver, if you're admin, commo, we're all in one. So Basic is just the fundamentals of being in the military. Survival skills like hand-to-hand combat, the gas chamber, discipline, integrity. They're teaching you the basics, like the pillars of the military. And so once Basic was 6 weeks long, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, then you go to your AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training. Now, that's the school that whatever you join the military for, that they send you to the school that you enlisted for. So in my case, that was transportation.
And so with transportation, what was the training for that? Like, we had to drive a range of vehicles?
Yeah.
Any fun courses, anything like that?
So yeah, you get to drive all kind of vehicles. Like, you get to drive those old Army Jeeps that they don't even have anymore. I remember us training on those. And like, some people didn't know how to drive a 5-speed. I did, because my parents had a Yugo. So I felt like I was a little bit ahead. I was like, oh, I got this, drill sergeant. So they would take us off road and just, training us to give us time to learn how to, maneuver a stick shift. Then once they made sure everybody knew how to drive a stick, then they started introducing us to bigger vehicles.
What ends up being the biggest vehicle that you drove while you were there?
The biggest one, I think, was probably a Hemet. And I can't remember what size that was, but that was probably the biggest one. And the Hemet, to me, I liked it, but as a driver on the Hemet, you sit over your front tire. So, you're in a vehicle and you're sitting on the tire. So, when you're turning, you got to realize it ain't as normal as like, okay, I'm in a car and my tires are in front of me. So I thought that was fun.
And then where did doing transportation take you in the military initially?
So initially on my orders, they had me going to Fort Leonard Wood for transportation school, but then I got changed and they ended up keeping me right there at Fort Dix. So after we did our training, I think our training was about 8 weeks, I think, for transportation. 88 Mike is what they called it. And then from there, you find out where you're going to be stationed.
And where'd you end up getting stationed at?
Fort Hood, Texas. If it wasn't the biggest Army post, it was one of the biggest. And they are known for being a rapid deployment post. So anytime anything breaks out and you got to deploy, like they're one of the first military bases that they call up and say, hey, we need transportation, we need commo or whatever. And you got to be ready to go in 72 hours.
Did you end up being deployed from there?
Yes. So when I got deployed in Desert Storm in 1990, I actually was coming home from leave. I was at home on leave, and when I came home, I saw all the lights on in the battalion, and it was late when I got there. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so as soon as I got there, they started in processing me back, and they was like, okay, we've been alerted that we're going to be going on a deployment. But at the time, they didn't tell us where.
What time did you find out where you were going?
I think by the time they got everybody, because there was a lot of people on leave, by the time they got everybody back from leave, and then they got us all in a briefing, then they sat us down and they was like, okay, this is where we're going. And they told us we were going overseas to Kuwait, to Saudi, and then probably eventually to Kuwait. And they didn't want us to tell people yet. Like, they didn't want us to tell our family and friends. It was just like, hey, keep this in-house, but this is where you're going. You can let them know you're deploying, but they didn't want us to give all the details yet.
And you mentioned family. How much family was around you at this time?
0. I had no family.
And then so reaching back out to them, was this just all by letter or phone and just letting everyone know?
Yes.
I remember from a previous interview that you mentioned the family care plan. Can you talk some about that?
Yes. So a family care plan is if you're a single parent or if you're dual status parents, meaning both you and your spouse are in and y'all have children. So at the time, I was single. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. So my family care plan, I didn't really need one because it was just me.
What was that process like of getting overseas?
It was kind of, I would say it was maybe just a little hectic just because we had so much we had to do. We had to make sure our paperwork was together, training, briefings, and we had a limited time to get it done. And so we didn't get a lot of sleep. So it was like, hey, we had to meet these gates because we was getting out of there.
And about how long did the flight over take?
I think I said 18 hours, I think. And we rode on it was an Air Force military plane, but I can't remember the exact, name of it. But I remember it being an Air Force airplane.
And then just coming back to your job that you were doing at the time, that might working in transportation, what was that like when you got overseas? What was the day-to-day like for you?
So it was, every day, we didn't stay in one place long. We kind of moved around quite a bit. And then we had different missions. So like, I was with the transportation battalion, and we had different size vehicles. So I was in 628 transportation company, which was like a light medium. So I remember at that time I had a 5-ton with an extended bed. So the main focus for my squad was like food. We would haul people from time to time, but it was more so food than supplies.
What would you say was the most popular food amongst the soldiers while you're over there?
MREs. We ate a lot of MREs. Like, I remember eating MREs so much till I was like, I don't want another MRE ever.
And did it ever look like the soldiers were excited to see you all when you all were showing up since they knew you all had supplies or anything like that?
Oh, yes. Like, when they saw our trucks pull up, they was like, okay, we're getting food. So it means we're not eating MREs 3 times a day. We're going to get a fresh, hot cooked meal.
And this was all in Kuwait?
Yes. Because we were in Kuwait and we were in Saudi Arabia. But I can't remember the actual timeline of how long we were in each. But we were in both while I was over there.
And then what would you say was probably the strangest or just the most unexpected thing that you all were expected to transport?
So they did have to transport POWs. I never did, which I was grateful of that. And I think that might have been probably the most difficult. I remember they would transport them, and we had like a temporary holding area where we would keep them. And so we would hold them there till they could get them placed at the main area.
You speak on this as much as you like, but in that previous interview, you mentioned that you all lost a soldier pretty early on when she got there. Could you talk about that some?
Yes. So we lost, his name was Callaway, and he was a mechanic with the 628 Transportation Company. And it was due to, it was a vehicle accident. And from what I can remember, he was on the back of a truck, and I think they were rear-ended by one of the Saudis over there is what happened. And it hit the truck, and from there, I think he fell off and may have been hooked to the vehicle. And I think he might have been hooked to that vehicle for a couple of miles before the person realized.
Would you say that it negatively impacted you or motivated you all, or how did that make you all feel?
Well, I would say it was kind of a negative impact because we hadn't been there very long and we lost somebody. And it was, I felt like it probably couldn't have been avoided. It was negative in that aspect. But at the other end, it helped me to be very cautious and make sure whenever we had people get on our vehicle, we would always have to give them a safety briefing about the do's and the don'ts. And so that becomes so routine that you don't really think about it. But after, losing Callaway, like it stuck with me. Like I was like, when I gave the briefing, I'm like, hey, listen up, and really emphasize the importance of being safe.
Yeah. In general, what was driving through the desert like?
I mean, it was like, it was hot, the sand was blowing, and you couldn't even see. Like, you wouldn't be able to see in front of you, but all you knew was, hey, I got to follow the vehicle in front of me. And it was kind of fun. I mean, you kind of feel like, well, I don't have nothing to worry about out here because there wasn't other vehicles, just you and your convoy. And there might be camels, so you would have to watch out for them. But I feel like out there was probably a little bit more safe driving than it was on the actual roads overseas.
During this time, did you get any letters from home or anything like that?
Yes. So I got letters from my grandmother. I used to write her all the time. I got letters from my stepmom. And I had even gotten letters from Harrodsburg, a school back in Harrodsburg. The teacher put 3 of our names up on the board. And all 3 of us all went to Harrodsburg High School and graduated and had joined the military. And I didn't realize he did this. And he put our names up there and he told the kids, he was like, okay, your assignment is you pick one person off the board and you're going to write them a letter. And so I got all these letters. And then one of the letters happened to be from my cousin. And it just touched my heart. I don't even know if he remembers that.
Do you think they would if you asked them?
I don't know. You know what? I'm going to ask him. That's a good question. I don't know.
And I've been curious about this since hearing your last interview, but there was a Scud missile launched where you were staying?
Yes. So, and that's when it got real. Because, we're all like, okay, we're over here. Nothing's happening. And you get all this hearsay, and we're like, nothing's going on. And, we were just kind of like, I don't know if this is really real. Well, we just happened, it might have been like late in the evening. And all of a sudden I remember, the Scud flew up in the sky, and it was headed, for not really our area, but within the vicinity of our area. And when I tell you, when we saw that, like, everybody just stood there in awe, like, and then we saw it get intercepted and it blew up. So when we saw it, and then I remember we had our chemical suits on, and we was trying to get our mask on because we wasn't sure if they had, it was chemical agent. But I remember then thinking, okay, this is the real deal. We need to take this serious.
How would you say the rest of that deployment finished up for you?
So after that, I think it went pretty well. We had highs and lows, but in the end, we all kind of stuck together, and we definitely took things a lot more serious. After losing Callaway and that Scud, we were like on a high state of alert, like always. We didn't complain when we realized, okay, we had to have 24-hour guard duty. Like, there was never a moment where every single person in our unit was asleep. We had somebody on watch 24/7. So we would often rotate pulling guard duty. I forgot about that. And I think they were like either 2 or 3 hour blocks, but it would be like 4 people. And our job was just to walk around our living area to make sure, hey, we had eyes on making sure nobody's coming our way.
And would you say that there were a lot of women that were deployed with you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It was a lot of women. And I remember one time they had even tried, they kind of, when it came to the sleeping area, they kept all the females with the females and then all the males with the males. Well, at one point, when they would do that, when they would put us like in a GP medium, they would put like all the females on one side and they put all the males on the other side, where they would have a tarp in the middle that would separate us. So that way, when we need to change or whatever, they couldn't see us and we couldn't see them.
And then coming home after that, what was that like? I can't imagine that coming home feels the same after being out in the desert for so long.
Oh, I tell you, when I came home, I remember just being so grateful for being home. Like, it really put it in perspective, like how much I love my country. One, just the freedoms we have. The freedom, the food, the cleanliness over there. Cleanliness, like bathing daily, is not something they did. So I deployed again in 2003 to Fort Knox. Now that one we went to Fort Knox to set up as a MOAP site. And what we did is we got people processed to send overseas. So every unit that was deploying out of Fort Knox, we literally like processed them to get them out the door.
And then what was the second one after that?
And then the one after that was in Afghanistan when I went with the 198th Military Police Battalion. I was admin with the MP Battalion. I was a battalion S1, and at that time I was higher rank. And it was really nice. And I worked in the battalion S1, and our main job over there was the Bagram Theater Internment Facility.
And by this time, were you a mother?
Yes, by this time I was a mother and a single parent. So when I had to go to the last 2 deployments I went to, I had to have a family care plan, which meant, okay, if we notify you, you got to go within 72 hours, you got to be able to go or less. So I had to get like a short-term family care plan and a long-term family care plan. The short term was in the event that whoever I had designated as a long term couldn't get there within that 72-hour window.
And then is there any details about this process that stick out to you that were just like uncomfortable, awkward, not really the ideal situation?
About the deployment or
about the deployment, being a single mother through that, just how you're able to handle all of that stress?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, two things. I think, well, deploying, leaving my daughter, was kind of hard. And then uh, not knowing, what if I don't come home? Like I made sure I did a will in the event something happened, even it being in Fort Knox, you just never know. So I remember I did a will, like in the event if something were to happen to me, where Celeste would go. And then just being concerned about her because when I left for the last deployment, she was in high school. She's in high school and I'm over in a foreign land. And something as simple as, Mom, I need money for whatever. I couldn't just be like, oh, here you go. I had to think of ways, okay, how can I get money to her so that way she'd have money to go out with her friends or to a game or.
Once you returned home, you switched over to AGR, and you did that for how long?
Yeah. So I actually started AGR in 2002. So when I deployed to Fort Knox, I was AGR. And then when I deployed to Afghanistan, I was AGR. So an AGR is Active Guard Reserve for the National Guard. And essentially what it is active duty for the National Guard. So what we do Monday through Friday is we prepare for the soldiers that come in 1 weekend a month.
What? And what was that experience like in comparison to the regular Army?
So I think being AGR is you don't have as many people. It's kind of like, you have it's a smaller scale of people with the same amount of work. So it's like you got to do a lot more work and you don't have a shop. But when you're active duty, like at being in the S1, where you're going to have me as the NCOIC, you'll probably have three clerks, maybe even 4. But when I was, the battalion S1 here, it was me and I had 1 temporary person. So it was kind of, it's difficult because you're trying to get a lot of work done. And it's kind of just you. I missed like helping soldiers. And if there was any way I could go back and just be like a contractor or something, any capacity where I can go back and talk to soldiers, I would absolutely love it. I just feel like giving back and encouraging them and just trying to help them find their way.
And what have you filled your free time with?
So now we have a 15-year-old high schooler, and most 4 days a week I pick him and his friends up from school because we no longer have transportation. So I pick him up from school 4 days a week, and then on the Friday we have 1 parent that picks him up. And then so the good thing is I have the flexibility. I can take him to practice, I can pick him up from practice, I can give his friends rides home from practice, which sometimes, the moms will be like, see, can such and such catch a ride? Sure. Tell them they can ride home. And it's a good feeling because I never could do that with my older daughter.
And then last question, would you still suggest the military to young ladies trying to figure out what to do with themselves as they're getting towards the end of their high school careers?
Absolutely. I definitely love that we have the fortitude to be able to say, yes, we want to join, or no, we don't want to join. I don't feel like nobody should be forced to do it. Let that be their option. And I would strongly encourage people that if you just don't know what you want to do, just go in there and give it 2 years. And it doesn't even have to be the Army. It could be any of the branches.
And then is there anything you'd like to add as we close?
Thank you for taking time to interview me. And who would have thought my son would be interviewing me? This is awesome. I absolutely love it.
Thank you very much.